Meow, 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 meow. Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat Dog. Hey, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. I'm gonna try something here. This is Trading View. You can do this on your own too. Apparently, on the third icon over here, if you choose all the way down to Gann Square, what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to just draw from one corner, and you're trying to draw these squares and curves, and you're trying to fit it in a certain way that makes sense, that touches the most point, that tells you the most history, both in terms of price resistance and in terms of price support, as well as telling you about cycles, if at all possible. So I just kind of, drew a Gann square here. I'm trying to fit all these things as best as I can to try to paint the story, try to make sense out of things. And then when I'm doing that, after I'm doing that, I'm going to uncage DOGE over here. I want you to get back in front. There you go, Doji. So there are a couple of things that I'm learning to do tonight. I played around with the Gann square all night, and a couple of things is one is if you can illustrate a cycle behavior, that's best. And if it touches the most point, that's best. And if that also gives you a lot of symmetry, as well as a lot of these very similar cycle behavior, that's also best, right? So I drew this square over here, and you can see that each one of these lines, angles, and curves can serve as resistance and support. And from cycle to cycle, it may mimic this previous behavior. And the price target that you're going to see could potentially be either the angle lines over here, the curve lines over here, or the box lines over here. So I'm trying to illustrate, from cycle to cycle. Generally, what happens with DOGE is that it hits either a confluence of the line over here and the curve over here, and it kind of bounces down the curve, and then it's going to try to hit the next angle up. And as it hits the angle, that's going to be a very, very strong resistance here in the 45-degree angle. After that, it's going to go back down and try to find some kind of support over here, right? It's going to find support and resistance of these kind of angles and lines over here until it doesn't, until it tries to test some of these lines and trying to get to the next level here again. And it hangs around the curve here a little bit, and then it gets rejected up here from the 45-degree angle again back in 2021, right? And since then, price is just kind of going sideways over here. It's gotten underneath this line over here, turned it from from support to resistance. And it's just kind of going around here until it finally got back inside of this curve over here. And right now we might be close to really breaking out above this curve over here. Once we break above the curve, theoretically, if this was going to have a very, very symmetric look to it, as the last cycle and the cycle before that, you're really talking about price like going all the way up to the angle. Like 45-degree angle is just like a $60 DOGE, which I think is absolutely insane. Or maybe even like a $20 or $30 DOGE, which I think is like absolutely insane. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the market cap is just way too big for it to happen. But I can potentially see it going to the top of this box over here. The top of the box over here, depending on how you draw it, can be anywhere from like, $3 to $4. Am I that bullish? Am I going to expect those to go up to like $3 to $4? I don't know. I mean, market cap is pretty big if it gets up there, right? But there's really not a whole heck of a lot of resistance. I mean, it's already gone sideways here for many, many years. And the next resistance is really up here at this line over here, which is around $4. Is it going to end up hitting that? Possible. It'll probably have to battle its previous all-time high here first, right? The previous all-time high here was really talking about around like 76 cents, right? So you really have to break about 76 cents before you can really talk about the next resistance going to be probably around like, $3 or $4, somewhere up there, which is kind of crazy to think about because price right now is like 15 cents. I don't think it's going to hit this curve up here. I don't think it's going to hit the 45-degree angle up here. I think it's just way too far. But I do wonder whether or not it's possible for it to hit there. Now, if it ends up going up there, I'm going to end up taking profits before it gets there, right? But it's a very strong possibility that it could, if it breaks through its previous all-time high at 76 cents. We'll see what you're gonna do, Doge. Now, I've been talking about Doge for quite some time, and there are quite a lot of things here too. When I talk about Doge, you look at a weekly chart, you can see, if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, what Doge has been doing really every single cycle has just been kind of consolidating inside the cloud. And after it breaks above the cloud, usually things get pretty bullish, right? We've had that happen over here. We've had Doge kind of consolidate inside a weekly cloud over here for a few months. Eventually just broke above. Now, this breaking above was a little bit too soon than I expected. Like the last cycle, the breaking above here, I was expecting it to happen maybe around May or so. It ended up happening like in February, right? So I was like, oh crap, like is it just going to all of a sudden like just go up like that? Sure enough, it hasn't. Sure enough, I started to find some resistance over here. And sure enough, you have like an Adam and Eve bottom over here. It's just basically breaking out on high volume and back testing it. So far, finding support right around the zone, right? What happened last time, you also have a very similar Adam and Eve type pattern, although it didn't really quite have like that good, very good back test. Maybe kind of back test over here on the daily chart, we just couldn't see it. It just kind of went up in a straight hurry, right? Even the cycle before that, it looks like there's like a very nice, Adam and Eve pattern over here, and maybe a little bit of a back test over here. So that's what Doge has been doing for about 3 cycles now. And if you look at the monthly, that's also going to paint a very, very similar picture. If you look at the monthly Ichimoku cloud, you can see rather than just looking at the cloud, because over here you really didn't have a cloud back here on the first cycle. On the second cycle, what happened is price consolidated for about 2 years after its bull run. And after its consolidation, after you start to have some bullish momentum going, you're going to have the Tenkan Kijun cross. Blue is going to cross above the red. And when that happens, you usually precipitate a very strong bull trend afterwards, right? What about this cycle so far? Have we had that bullish Tenkan Kijun cross? Yes, we did back in March. So generally that anticipated a very strong move up. However, that hasn't really happened quite just yet. We've just been kind of, breaking out and doing a little bit of back test here, most likely followed by, more bullish continuation moving forward. And that's kind of what you're seeing here on the Ichimoku cloud. Things are setting in line to be looking pretty decent, right? If you also look at a Bollinger Band, it always tells you a very, very similar story where you're going to end up having a squeeze as price just goes sideways and do nothing for like 2 years. And as price went sideways, doing nothing for 2 years, you're going to end up basically have the 20-minute moving average initially pulling down, and it's going to start pulling flat and maybe a little bit uppish, right? Now, this flat and a little bit uppish right here is going to set up for a big move because of how squeezy this Bollinger Band is looking, right? So over here, we basically have a very, very similar look. You have a very, very squeezy Bollinger Band. You have a 20-month moving average really turn from negative to starting point positive. Although you did have an initial Bollinger Band expansion, you don't quite have that Bollinger Band going all the way down to the floor kind of thing quite just yet, right? You are still kind of having a little bit of a consolidation over here, so we end up having a little bit of a Bollinger Band recontraction, if you will. But because the 20-month moving average is putting up, because price does look like it's building up a lot of energy to potentially complete a higher price to come, I do anticipate that the Bollinger Band will eventually expand as price goes up. And I do think that there's been a lot of energy that's been building up here sideways with this Adam and Eve pattern over here, that most likely a continuation of the price action is going to be up. And I just show you on a Gann square as to why. Once you're able to kind of break above certain resistance, you're going to try to look for the next resistance. That's just the natural order of things, right? The next resistance after you pass through, I think the major one's going to be the all-time high, and after that is going to be really talking about maybe like a couple of dollars of those, like $2, $3, $4 that could potentially be in the cards here. Now, personally, I have accumulated all throughout down here less than 10 cents for quite some time. I've also continued to accumulate as price went back and do a little bit of back test of this level around here, around like 13 cents, 14 cents. I've accumulated around here as well. I'm done accumulating. Whatever happens, happens. If it goes down further again, if it back tests like the 12 level, which I'm not sure it's going to do again, to be completely honest with you. But if it does, then I might end up buying more. But I'm just not sure whether or not that's going to end up happening anymore. If you look at a little bit closer in terms of what the cycle has been doing, if you just look at the Ichimoku cloud, the Kijun and Tikin around 13 and 14 has been served as a very, very good kind of support level. Initially closed down below it for the month of April, but so far we're breaking back above of it. And if we're able to close above the Tenkan and Kijun and we have a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross, the most natural thing to probably end up doing would be to attack the Ichimoku cloud up above. The 25 cents is going to be the next level, and then above that it's going to be around like 40 cents, right? And then above that, the next resistance level is going to be the previous all-time high, which is around 76 cents. And then after that, you're really talking about potentially $2, $3, $4 of Doge. That's what I'm seeing. But we can take it one thing at a time. Not every single cycle is going to have to work out the same way as the last cycle. If you're going to look at some of the price target, if you just look at the previous all-time high, you draw a Fibonacci sequence here, look at the extension, it's going to give you a very clear picture in terms of what's happening. All it's doing right now is been trying to break about the 0.136 for quite some time, and this is where the Adam and Eve double bottom is located at the waistline over here at the 0.136 level, right? Went up all the way to 0.236 level, got rejected, trying to back test the 0.136, so far finding support. In the natural order of things would probably end up pushing up higher. Now, again, the resistance level is going to be at the bottom of the cloud, close to the top of the cloud around 40 cents, as well as the previous all-time high. Sometimes the 0.618 around 50 cents could also serve as resistance. But then after that, I'm really thinking about maybe $2, $3, $4 somewhere up here. Could it end up being truncated, end up around like 1.618? If it breaks above the all-time high, you get like over $1 Doge, but doesn't extend further. Possible, but that's not what the Gann square is telling me based on what I'm looking at. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me talking about Doge. Have a good one. Woof woof. Bye.